this is not the headline on my research project. I did something more, I don't know, catchier perhaps. But it captures what I am interested in. So who starts experiments for the future energy systems? And I'm going to walk you through one example which I investigated, which is Simris. You've probably been there. Who has been in Simris visiting this site? A few, not very much. All right, this is a colleague of mine, and this is our guide. And you see the PV panels. They were Sweden's largest PV panels, was it 2016? And the very insufficient windmill was built in 1993, if I recall correctly. And it's quite interesting because we are not the only visiting study tours that have been struttering around this old facility. It's been visited by a lot of international delegates. All the political parties in Sweden has been visiting Simris. But it's not this old site they're looking for, because E.ON Energy Network had turned Simris into a kind of a self-sufficient energy grid and islandized Simris. So that's what the interesting stuff is about. And I learned this morning that there are, and I also realized there are heaps of interesting stuff going on in this system. So this is a picture from E.ON's website, and it was last week, I think. And it was a overproduction. It wasn't an islandized, that's a tricky word, at the time. So there was a surplus going out on the regional grid. But every 6 weeks, they cut this connection off, and there's all the technical stuff that makes this quite complex. I'm not going to talk about that, because when I see this, I think, well, that's a pretty bad business idea, isn't it? So that's why I'm interested in who at E.ON gets the opportunity to make such a bad business idea. So right, that's a question, isn't it? So looking at the, I call it entrepreneurial agency. Now there are two words in this slide, the entrepreneurial agency and system transition. And I'm interested in what makes this transition from a 100-year-old top-down energy system change into something different. Now, we're not really sure what that different thing is yet, I would say, but that transition, I think that's very interesting. And entrepreneurial agency, that is individuals, companies, actors that somehow enables this transition. So who is doing what and why? So where does the bad business ideas come from? That's quite an interesting question, because if we think of it, as far as we know, now this project is fully owned by E.ON Energy Network, and we know large companies, they're not really into transitions or anything new, are they? They're pretty boring, hard to work with, usually. I know I step on a few toes, but that's all right. And there's another interesting question, I think. What was the intention? So was turning Simris into a self-sufficient local grid a market technology opportunity? You know, we can find, we have got very fancy technology that we can create a market opportunity with. Or was it perhaps, we are destroying the world, we need to do something different, something that saves carbon dioxide emissions? Or was it perhaps a bit of both? So what are the opportunity beliefs within E.ON in this case? I've been looking into other FED, for example, that we're going to learn more about this afternoon as well. But what were the opportunity beliefs? Or is it just technical stuff. You know, we need a robust energy system, or just, you know, technology is very interesting and funny. Let's test what we can do and get someone to pay for it. Oops, I think there's a finding so far. Is that okay? All right. There's a slide missing. Oh, don't worry. It's the sharing. No, don't worry. It's the sharing part. Findings so far. I've got them here, so I can read them for you. So I've been interviewing people at E.ON and tried to find out what was the early phase development. What happened? Who was it? So I've been meshing narratives, it's called, to find out the early stage development. And I can say that Simris wasn't started by E.ON. It was started by a handful of individuals employed by E.ON. Oops, it's a party, is it? And these, so we think that companies are very rational. They have these strategic decisions. They plan and plan and plan, and then okay, this is a good opportunity. Let's run for that. Let's do that. But that was not how it worked or was done. Actually, it was not more than a handful. It was basically 3 or perhaps 4 individuals that were key individuals working at E.ON, and they really fighted. they had to. We say they acted in a very entrepreneurial way, but they had to raise money for it. You think, well, that's easy. E.ON's got a lot of money, but they didn't have a legitimacy. Of course, it was much easier to do it the old traditional way. They had to create space internally to kind of get resources, not only money, but also other people to work on this. So they had to really maneuver. So there wasn't really a great plan. And when they were developing this, it was also, they were not sure what the goal was. So they were kind of acting and learning all the way. It's so this is interesting, I think, from a transitional perspective, but it's also interesting when it comes to entrepreneurship, because we got all these people also in this room that fights for changing the energy system, and it's not necessarily a business opportunity that is identified. It's also a business opportunity, but it's also something else. And I think a lot of the stuff in policy that we have, especially in the European Union, perhaps, but also when it comes to our ideas about what the large companies are supposed to do. We have these ideas about the market only. The market it's going to solve the energy for us. But there are also other values, and so this is relevant for entrepreneurship research, I think, as well, because there are other values among these individuals that we could support. Thank you. In order to have these projects really get going. So it's not only what's done with the company that we expect them to do, but what is done within the companies or with actors that is usually beyond what we expect them to do, that enables, I think, this type of initiatives. So it's the thing I think is very important is how do we enable collaboration in industries where we might have competition, and what support could increase learnings from these type of projects and others, and how can we enhance feedback and collaborations among actors in the systems to really speed up these type of changes. Right, thank you.